Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Dennis. So I've talked about 3D printers. My last video got quite a few views, so I thought I would go into some of the things I've learned in terms of tools. So some of the things I've bought, some of the things that have helped me, and we'll show you some things that you can use them for that will help you. Here we go. Okay, so here's a picture of all the different things I've got. So let's start with what I find the most useful. So we've got our little clippers, okay? That's basically for cutting your filament, cut it at an angle, but it does more than that. So if you want to cut some little imperfections out of the inside, I didn't really think I would use this that much, but it actually comes in extremely handy. All right? We also have just your regular little needle nose pliers. Again, you can use that to either cut some pieces off or just pull some stuff away. All right. You can also use it for the nozzle, and when you have something there, just quickly grab it and pull it off the nozzle, so that when you're starting your build, it starts nice and clean. If you're planning on painting it, maybe you want to sand it down. Well, this little kit comes with like a little sander. All right. All right. This just grinds it down. It's kind of coarse, and it will clean it off really, really well. Now, this is something I bought. There's a different one that came with the case, but I bought this one separately. It's helpful if you have something that's very narrow and you want to get in there and just clean it up. It's called a deburring tool. All right, and it comes with a little pack of extra ones. They're all slightly different, but so far I've only used it a few times, so you don't really need that. Quite honestly, I don't believe. This is just a mat, so you can measure things out. This is more important. So on here, you have these. So if you have a clogged nozzle, take this. I'm just going to try and show that to you better. This will go up into the nozzle. Now when you pull it out, make sure when you pull it out that you wipe it off immediately. All right, otherwise it's just going to harden on here. You can get it off afterward, but it's just going to be a lot harder. Okay, it's got a bunch of different sizes. All right, I have used that a few times now, and it cleans off the nozzle and gets it off. Talking about cleaning the nozzle, that's what this is for. You can use it on the 3D model itself, or you can use this to clean your nozzle off. I've used it a couple times. That way, when things get clogged up on your nozzle, this will just brush it off without doing any real damage. All right. This here, it's like a scalpel, if you will. There's different shapes. So when you have those little imperfect pieces, you want to get at it. You have this one, and you have multiple different types. All right, different angles, so you can use it. Very nicely stored in here, and that's it. The one thing I didn't think I would use, and then I got realizing what this is actually for. All right. So this will open. Okay. Now, as you open, it has a measurement. Okay. So if you have a 1.75 millimeter filament, you can go measure it and make sure that you're getting the exact distance it's supposed to be. Because even if it's not the exact size that you want it to be, that can cause you some problems. Okay, nozzle size. And I want to talk about some things that I've recently found out that I also think you probably want to know. So now I thought I'd pass along some things I've learned along the way. Number one, get yourself a little tool, something like this. All right, it's a little sharp edge, and it's not so much for prying. You can use it for that, but once you get underneath, you can use it to pry up. It's very tough. It's not going to break. You use it for other things. You can use it for a lot of other things in your house, but I got that one specifically for the 3D printer because when your model adheres to the plate, sometimes it adheres a little too much. That will just help you get it off. Now, there's other things you can use. There's a thing called Magigoo. Put that on, and what it's going to do is going to create a layer that will allow it to adhere to it. So it's an adhesive, And then that way, like things like PetG and maybe TPU, it'll let it adhere better. And then when it cools off, it just pops off. And basically it's gone and you just have your model. Things like that. Other things I found out is if you're using PetG, all right, it can wear on your nozzle. Same as like glow in the dark. They tell you to get a hardened nozzle. Come to find out that doesn't make that much difference. Basically, you might need to replace the nozzle afterward. And I think that's why a lot of people have separate printers. They have one for PLA and one for PetG. You can, when you get used to it, you can just change the nozzles and just keep doing that. Maybe remember what they were being used for. Because if you do a PetG print, okay, that's a type of filament, and it doesn't, everything works great, then you go to do a PLA, there could be some material left over. Now, I found this out today, actually. So what you can do is you can heat it up. I think they said like 240 degrees. Seems a lot. And then let it cool down to 150. And then once it gets to that, then you can just kind of clean it out, replace your filament, and it might work better at that point. As long as your nozzle hasn't expanded to the point where it's just not going to work that great anymore. So you may need to change your nozzle. So I think that's why some people have a printer for PetG and a separate one for PLA. And that way you don't have to keep switching them back and forth all the time. You just keep using the different filaments. I've wound up changing the nozzle, a whole bunch of stuff, just because I didn't know that. Would have been a lot easier had I not had to do that. I would have concentrated on using one type of filament, and like if it was PLA, just do different types of PLA until I'm ready to use PetG. And then use the PetG until it's all gone, and then switch it up. But you don't have to do that, of course. You can just, if you're happy with it and you're comfortable with switching things out, just keep switching them or cleaning them out, whatever it takes. Use that little device to go in, clean the nozzle. Make sure everything is out of there until you see the filament coming out nice and clear, and see how you're going. Some of the things I've run into recently is what's called under extrusion. So you have little holes through everything. So that can be a result of having used a different filament like PetG. And now if there's like a little gap, and sometimes, especially in the Ming the Magician ones, and this is relayed to me today, so it could be, I don't know, maybe it's not true. I think it is. What will happen is sometimes when you do that, it's not going to give you the best print afterward. So there's some maintenance that you're going to have to do. 3D printers, there's a lot of work. Okay, not a lot of work. Okay, there's some work. It's got a little bit more maintenance to it than you ordinarily might have to do. All right, cleaning the nozzle off. Use one of those brushes. Clean that nozzle. Make sure everything is off there. There's no gunk, no leftover PLA or PetG or anything like that. So that at least when it starts to come out, you got to heat it up properly. Everything is going to work right. Make sure you know the temperatures. There's obviously, you need different temperatures for PLA and PetG and ABS, all of them. So look it up, get your different filaments, get your different temperatures, and there's a lot of information on that. So don't just go and print. Make sure you do that. There's a thing called PID, a calibration. I haven't done that yet, but I know I need to. So if you haven't done that, look up a video on it. Once I know how to do it, I'll do a video myself maybe and just show you. Because there are different things you can do to dial in when it's, like when I talked about under extruding. So it's not pulling the filament out enough. So you can get a little device, pop it on there, or just use a marker for measure 100 millimeters. Tell it on your dial, on your LCD, to print 100 millimeters. If it's short on that, or it prints more than it should, then you have to calibrate that to get it back to the right place. Otherwise, you're going to have those little holes in your models, or things are just not going right and you can't figure it out. One thing I've come across is firmware. I had the Magician Max. Okay, the Mingda Magician Max. I couldn't get anything to print at the beginning. And the reason was I needed to update the firmware. Very easy to do. It's much easier than some things. Just make sure you're not going to lose power, kind of like a BIOS update. so that nothing goes wrong. Otherwise, then you're going to have to replace the board. But at least it can be done. But I don't recommend having to do it. So just be careful. There's a risk to everything, but make sure you're on board with what the process is. It's very easy. You go into Mingda or whatever your manufacturer is, get that file, make sure your printer is off, your 3D printer, pop in your SD card or U-disk if that's what you're using, turn it on, it should recognize the file and do an update right there and then. That's basically how you update it, okay? But watch a video so you can get all those steps easier. And that's it. So anyhow, just the little tidbits I've learned over this last little while that I've had a 3D printer that I'm just trying to pass on as I go along. Just try and help you out. So one of the things I've been doing as well is doing tricolor or dual color. And there's some amazing things you can get from it. Like I did a Christmas chess set in red and black, and I'm going to do a sparkly gold for the white team, just to make it go with the Christmas theme kind of thing. They look amazing. All right. So anyway, that's the video. Hope you like it. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you have questions, put them in the comments. I'll get back to you. If I don't know, I'll get you an answer one way or the other. And I'll research it until I know. Because there's a lot to learn. All right. So if you're new here, think about subscribing. Hit that bell for notifications. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.